Alrighty, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started for the February meeting of the Urbana Sustainability Advisory Commission. Will staff please call the roll?
Stacy Gloss,
Present.
Dustin Allred,
Here.
Tomas Delgado,
Here.
Andrew Stumpf,
Here.
Morgan White,
Here.
Maddie Garbaz,
Here.
Megan McGinty, Test 5 will Dave Maydeen, Scott Tess.
Here.
Right.
All right, we do have a quorum. Thank you. Hi, welcome. Part of your packets that you received with the packets for this evening included some previous minutes from our November 5th and our December 3rd, 2019 meetings. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 5th?
I'll go ahead and put a motion in to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Thomas. Any changes or corrections for the minutes from November 5th? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. We'll move on to the minutes from December 3rd. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for December 3rd?
I'll put a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, changes, or corrections to the minutes from the December 3rd meeting minutes? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. Great. Does anyone have any additions or changes for the agenda this evening? Nope. All right. Next on the agenda is our public input. If anybody has any public input for the commission, you are welcome to speak for us right now, but we will call later. Okay. All right, moving on to presentations. Scott, will you please provide the staff report?
Sure. Good evening. First update, the city has registered with a platform called Cities with Nature. This is offered by our professional association, ICLEI, which is a professional association for cities working on energy and climate issues. The platform provides a biodiversity development pathway as well as a community of practice. So they're going to have some education and exchange and community hub for practitioners on there. And then they also have this pathway to developing a biodiversity plan and implementation. So and that's on the agenda to show that a little bit if we have time to get to it. Next, along with our resilience work, staff is helping to improve the city's continuity of operations position. So continuity of operations is how you continue doing business after the emergency response to an emergency. So an emergency happens, there's an initial response, 1 day, 3 days, a week, whatever. Then there is the question of how do you continue working if, for instance, you've lost a building. And so we're working across departments to improve our position with particular focus on IT, with all of the threats that IT systems are facing to cities around the country. And we're also working with Champaign County to update the county-wide hazard mitigation plan. So cities can become eligible for certain FEMA grants by having a hazard mitigation plan. the county organizes all the jurisdictions, or most of them anyway, into a county-wide hazard mitigation plan. So one plan for all of us collaboratively, so that every municipality doesn't have to do it themselves. So we're participating. This has been going on for years. It's updated every 5 years, and we're participating in the update so that we're going to be eligible for FEMA grants for the next 5 years.
Is that something that could get a presentation before it's finalized here?
Sure. Yeah, I've mentioned it. Susan Monty is the lead on that project, and I've mentioned it. I think they're still in kind of data collection, and then there's going to be some public engagement.
Cool.
Moving on, some public engagement. Staff spoke at Parkland's National Green Infrastructure Certification Program class. That is a national certification that different education institutions around the country get qualified to teach, and so Parkland is one of those locations. And so they like to visit some of the green infrastructure in Urbana and Champaign, and so I gave a little talk and a little show and tell as well. You may remember, moving on to Youth Cycle, you may remember the county had a EPA-sponsored household hazardous waste collection event maybe a month or two ago, and there was some miscommunication on the part of, I think, EPA and the vendor, or both, and they were understaffed for the work that was before them, and we ended up providing service to a lot less households, vehicles, as they come in vehicles, than we had in the past, and a lot of folks who registered didn't get to drop their household hazardous waste. As such, all the county recycling coordinators, Urbana-Champaign, Champaign County, have been able to get EPA to offer a second follow-up household hazardous waste collection event. And so we first opened up that registration to the folks that were registered but did not get served last time. We still have slots open, and now the registration is open to everyone. So anyone that is interested in participating can. So that's really great that we're getting that event from Illinois EPA twice in 1 year, because there's a lot of household hazardous waste out there to collect.
Scott, related to that, I know this is kind of looking rather forward, but for hazardous waste, have they ever considered, I know that when there's spring cleanup with the city, they send out something in the mail, and residents have just gotten to the point where they know when it's coming up, and they know to contact the city. For the elderly and people who are more homebound or don't have cars, you don't want to get on the MTD, hey, I got some hazardous waste I'm taking with me. So have they ever considered doing something where there would be a service that if folks sign up, they could have their hazardous waste picked up like we do for community recycling?
I don't know if the recycling coordinators have discussed that possibility. I know we haven't done it in the past, but I can follow up and ask them.
All right, are there any other questions or discussion about the staff report? No? All right, thank you very much for the update. This evening we have Theo here tonight with us, who will be talking about what is on our agenda called the Youth Sustainability Summit. I believe it does have a different name, though. So Theo, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind coming up to the table, and Chelsea as well? Chelsea. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing your update about how organizing is going for that event.
Yeah, thank you. Theo, as Chelsea. And yeah, our new name this year is the Climate Justice Forum by Youth for Youth. We're a continuation of the Youth Sustainability Summit that was held in October 2018 at the Siebel Center in Champaign. This year, this spring, late April or early May, our date will be finalized at our meeting tomorrow. we're going to be holding a summit at the Anita Purvis Nature Center in Urbana. And we're looking to raise both personal and political awareness of climate change. Political awareness being we're going to bring speakers in to talk about registering to vote, pressuring politicians to focus more on climate change, and learning more about local politicians to learn what they do about climate change in particular and other issues that relate to climate justice. And then also raising personal awareness about what we can do as individuals, particularly in our consumption habits, to alleviate climate change, recycling, driving less, using less water. We have adult mentors from the city of Urbana, from the U of I, from the Urbana Park District, like Chelsea, so we're getting a lot of support for this. And the students this year have split up into 4 committees of 3 or 4 high school students each with a different focus, including fundraising, agenda, activities, and marketing. I'm on the marketing committee. We've been focusing on designing T-shirts and posters for the event, and once we settle on a final date tomorrow, we will start talking to our teachers as well as to our peers about advertising this to students in case of the teachers and in case of the students talk to their friends about it, try and recruit as many people as possible to come to this event. We believe this is going to be really helpful to people around the community, particularly to youth, in helping us all to understand what we can do about climate change, why it's such a threat, and how we can live with it and take action to prevent the worst effects of climate change. So, thank you.
Excellent. Awesome.
I just
Go
want to
ahead. I know, right? Like, yes.
Very well done.
Any questions? Comments?
Could you repeat the new name of it?
Climate Justice Forum by Youth for Youth.
Thank you.
Okay. And when you say it is by youth for youth, what is like the age, the grades, like who are you targeting?
We're focusing on pretty much all middle school and high school students around the region, probably particularly high school, but we certainly want to include younger students as well into middle school. Elementary school, not so much, though they're certainly welcome, of course. And we're focusing all around the region, Urbana, Uni, Central, Centennial, Academy High, Rantoul. We have students, I'm not sure from Rantoul, but from all the other schools and within the city area.
Do you want to put in a plug about the meeting tomorrow?
We're meeting from 7 to 8:30 at the Urbana Free Library in the downstairs conference room. We already have a place decided, but we're going to be deciding the date and the time of the conference, and after that, we're going to have a lot more ability to do specific advertising, obviously, once we have a date.
All right. Thank you so much for that
Thank you.
update. Thank you for joining us. All right. Our next agenda item is a staff presentation on annual metrics. Will you just introduce that to us?
So every year, we collect a bunch of data regarding the city's, community-wide, the city's energy, water, waste performance. We also collect similar data for city facilities and operations. Those are separate efforts. And we compile that so that we can see improvement over time. And we also, for the energy-related data, we put that into a third-party greenhouse gas accounting software that converts our energy consumption into greenhouse gases and gives us our greenhouse gas inventory. So I'm going through that process right now. I always like to have it done by the SAC meeting the first Tuesday in March, and that almost never happens. So what I wanted to do with you tonight is just give you a little bit of a preview of some of the data in a little bit more raw form. Eventually, this will be distilled into just a few charts that we put into an annual report. And that annual report is going to look a little different as the way we're organizing sustainability and resilience these days in the city is a little bit different. So first, let's start with water consumption data, because I think I have all that in. And while it's loading, any questions about what I've already described? That's not the, yes. So this is updated for 2019 data. This is city facilities only. So facilities and operations, not the whole community. You can see we had some dramatic declines in water consumption in 2012. The red is the irrigation water, so that's our landscapes that have irrigation systems. And then the blue is water used in buildings. We've got 2019 data in there, and while it looks like we're kind of plateaued in water consumption conservation, we had some declines again in calendar year 2019. I don't know that we had any particular projects, although I don't know every project that happens in the city, but I think we have trimmed up the staff levels, so that may contribute to some declines, because it is mostly buildings rather than irrigation that's gone down.
Scott, do you know if the buildings have cooling towers? Like, have you gone through conversations about increasing the cycles of concentration for your cooling towers?
I don't know that we have cooling towers in that sense, because we don't have any plants. Isn't that like a more intense building?
Yeah,
I think
I'm
we
not
have
sure
rooftop
when
chillers.
they are put in and when they're not.
I think we have rooftop chillers, but I'm not sure that they're consuming.
So a rooftop chiller. Yeah, let's maybe if you could find out like what it's called, and then I can talk to the folks who did the cooling tower evaluation for campus, because basically the water goes up there, and as it's like chilled by, maybe it's dropping down a wall or something, so it can get some cooling from air. It evaporates, and you have to refill it, and it can go through a few times, but then after it's gone through a few times, it usually has to be thrown out because it's got too much solids in it, too many solids.
Right.
So it's possible that some of the cycles of concentration work that we learned about could apply.
Sure. Yeah, we'll look into that. You may remember the city is doing a facilities master plan. So, wherever that data is, it's probably comprehensive at this point. It's just pulling it out of some report. I think I've also got community water consumption here. Yeah, I believe this is updated too. So we divide this up a couple different ways. I think this is the way I report it because it's more parallel to the way that the greenhouse gas inventories are set up in terms of sectors. So we've got industrial water consumption, residential in industrial in green, residential in blue, and commercial in red. And another, again, seemed like maybe we had kind of plateaued. We already have, when you divide it out per capita, we already are well below the national average of per capita per day water consumption. So there's a real question of how low you can go. At some point, the shower head's got to put out some water. So, but we're seeing still some small declines in water consumption. So, and that's with a little bit of growth the last couple years, and more units, more housing units have been built, and we've still seen an absolute decline. Some of that looks like it's commercial. Looks like industrials maybe held steady, but small declines.
So this is from water company?
Yes, Illinois American Water.
So when did they put the sensors in to each water meter? 'Cause
Explain.
usually they would do like one reading and then the next month they would estimate. And now I think they can do it every month.
That may very well be. What the data I'm looking at is not that fine grain.
Okay.
They just simply give me, here's the total gallons of industrial here's for the year,
Mhm.
total gallons of resident, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So I'm not adding up everybody's water bills.
Oh.
So yeah, I don't know
I'm
what
just
they're
wondering
doing
what
from month to month.
resolution is on the data they give you now versus in the past, I guess.
Yeah, it's a lot better these days.
Yeah.
Good.
I have a question just on the water consumption and the data points that you're receiving from the water company. There's going to be sort of the water that leaves the water company, and then the water that's actually metered, and there can be a difference in that as there are losses along the lines. Do you separate out the data for, is it the end use consumption that we're seeing from each of the kind of points that they're monitored at, or is that coming out of the plant, so including for the losses to kind of understand how much is lost along the line?
I think this is meter data because if it was lost along the line, you wouldn't be able to say whether it was going to a commercial or a residential. So I think this is metered data, and I'm not familiar with their loss percentage. Other questions on that one? Moving on to waste management. This one is not complete yet. And just to make it a little bit simple, nope, this is not the right one for the chart. Let me slide over here. The top line in 2019, hold on one second, let me resize this. The top line in top line in 2019, the total recycled is complete. This includes U-Cycle curbside, U-Cycle multifamily, and then all of the recycling that the city calculates and keeps track of in terms of recycled asphalt, recycled concrete, all of that. The composted line is not complete. There's some problem with the data. We need to investigate how we're collecting that. And so we're going to be working on that this week.
What are the units?
Tons. The landfill number is also complete. So a small decline, and looks like not quite the lowest we've ever experienced or ever recorded, but lower than the last few years. And we're going to have, like I said, this composted number is incorrect, but we're going to have a pretty good diversion rate. Nationally, about a third diversion is average. To some degree, that may be attributable to whether other cities are calculating all of the concrete and asphalt that they're recycling.
Does this include, the recycled includes U-Cycle? It's not what's recycled out of city projects, right?
Includes U-Cycle, yeah.
That's great.
I don't know if I have a U-Cycle drill down here. Let me take a look real quick. Oh, yeah, here we go. So here's U-Cycle specifically. So we had a little uptick again in total tons recycled. We're attributing this increase to the Amazon effect, that everything is delivered in a cardboard box. We have seen a lot of cardboard piled up at multifamily residences. It's hard to keep up with. So we don't have any data about that. It's just how it looks. Any questions on that?
On the previous tab that you had, where it showed the number of participants and U-Cycle curbside.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It looks like it's sort of, plateaued at about the kind of 80% now.
Yeah.
That's great, especially because we're having more people, like there's more apartment buildings in our community, there's, so more units overall. So you're still holding those participation numbers up as well, so that's great.
Yeah, we count participation differently for multifamily and curbside. We provide e-cycle toters for every multifamily property, and there's no way of knowing whether every resident in every unit actually puts stuff in the recycling cans. So we just round all that up to participating. Curbside, we know if they have a can or not because we deliver the can if they ask for it. And if they don't have a can, then they are not participating. If they do have a can, then they are participating. So that 20% is all curbside. All right, on to energy. Which one do I want? This is not complete, which is why the chart looks funny here. These two are complete, I do believe. Let's start with kilowatt hours. We went up in electricity consumption last calendar year and kind of came back to where we were in 2017. And looks like residential is, and you can go up here in the raw data and take a look. Residential went down. Residential kilowatts, residential gas went down. Commercial went down. Commercial gas nearly the same. Industrial electricity down. Industrial gas nearly the same. So we're kind of plateaued here. One thing that's always auguring in our favor is every year the grid gets a little bit decarbonized. It's a little bit cleaner because of the renewable portfolio standard. That renewable portfolio standard says the grid, everyone who participates, has to be a little bit cleaner every year, 1%, 1.5%. And so we get, without taking any action, we use the same amount of electricity. It's more renewables every year. So that's always auguring in our favor. Gas never gets greener or cleaner. Gas is always the same greenhouse gas intensity. The folks who measure greenhouse gas intensity may tinker with how much greenhouse gases natural gas emits if they recalculate how much loss there is in the system. But burning the gas is always the same. So that's, right now we're really focused on decarbonizing the electricity sector. There's probably going to be some more legislation this year in Springfield. But eventually we're going to have to turn towards natural gas because it's all got to approach zero consumption at some point. There may be some specialty processes or industrial processes that are going to keep using gas for a longer term. But a lot of other uses need to be electrified, and then the electricity decarbonized.
So Scott, one of the things that, you just said they have to be electrified in that sense, but it's not yet cost effective, but solar wasn't cost effective 20 years ago. So methane capture is an alternate where we're capturing from, like at the sanitary district, they're capturing methane. And right now they use that captured gas to run a turbine for their facilities, but they could, it's physically possible, and we've been trying to encourage them to do so, make it good enough to put into the gas pipeline. So just like a renewable energy certificate, we could have renewable identification numbers, which represents renewable gas. So there's a path there. It's just not widely well traveled. And the same thing with the biomass boiler on the energy farm. that was replacing propane, but just because we didn't have natural gas at the building. So there's some possibilities in that realm. It's just not really, we have there's not an assumption in my mind that you have to go to electrifying your heating, especially with geothermal, which we'll talk about more.
I don't think that I think there is a scale mismatch with the amount of gas that a wastewater treatment plant uses compared to the amount of gas that every home and commercial building uses. For instance, most of the gas that's produced at the wastewater treatment plant in Urbana is being burned on site for what would have otherwise been gas or electric consumption. And there's not a lot left over. That's one facility, and they're using almost all of the gas that they produce. So I don't think the scales match.
Yeah, the research, like Lance Scheidemann has shown that they do, but it's at the large national scale. So we could ask him to come and talk a little bit more about it. I can just say that he said that. Not that I know how the math works.
I mean, that would be superior, environmentally to drilling.
And I think it has to do with algae too, because you can use the waste to grow the algae. Then that's a biofuel that creates. There's a system. So yeah, we could have him come in.
Yeah, that chart's not ready. Yeah, I think that's kind of there's kilowatt hour consumption, and that's not updated. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm curious who's providing the data, actually?
So these are community-wide reports provided by Ameren, Illinois.
Are they published publicly? Or does it go to you because you request it?
So most communities in Ameren territory have an Ameren data portal that they log into, and there's certain data they can access. So I download some of that data and compile it year on year so we can see trends, and then this ends up in an annual report.
Is there any breakdown? I know that with like Urbana Municipal Aggregation that we have the kind of renewable energy credits that are being paid for through the municipal ag.
Yes.
Are we able to see graphs that are sort of broken out between kilowatt consumption that would be just the municipal ag program versus the kind of other energy retail supply?
Yeah. So when I put this data into our greenhouse gas accounting software, I subtract all of each rec is 1,000, well, put it this way. Yeah, each rec represents kilowatt hours that are, green because we buy renewable energy credits. So that basically zeroes out most of the residential sector in terms of greenhouse gases. We still use the electricity. It's just green because we bought the credit. And so that plays into the greenhouse gas accounting. So I don't just say if we use 1,000 kilowatt hours of residential, I don't put 1,000 kilowatt hours of residential into the greenhouse gas accounting software. I put 0 or 1 or 10 or what as the case may be relative to those renewable energy credits. I think the last, let's show this too. So you can see 2019 is starting to be populated with what's complete here. And I did update these. So water and wastewater has gone down in greenhouse gases. Industrial up by 5%. And commercial up by 3%. And so I'm still working on that.
Where do you get the info for transportation and mobile sources?
Some of it, in terms of transit, MTD has gallons of fuel consumed. And then the on-road transportation is a model. So it's the Regional Planning Commission does transportation modeling, and we just bring that down, and then we take model data and we put it into another model. Because there's no meter in your car,
It's all estimating.
so. Now, the last thing I want to show you is a draft of the annual report as it is right now. This is Tanner using our new compost spreader. I need to find him in the hallway and make sure he's okay with me putting him on the cover. If you see him, let him know. But I can still change that out. One change here is the title is Sustainability and Resilience Annual Report rather than Environmental Sustainability Division Annual Report. So this is going to be a little more all-encompassing. This page has changed a little bit too. We used to have some listings of staff, but if we're going to be kind of reporting citywide, that doesn't make as much sense. These are up to date in terms of both of our big picture comprehensive environmental plans. We've accomplished and achieved, accomplished, completed everything we're going to complete. They both term out at the end of last year, and so and maybe we should have a session where we kind of talk about everything that's been moved into the completed column there. But those are both termed out now, and so next year we may have something different here. Something else that's different in the budget this year is you won't see here or anywhere else in the report any discussion of nuisance code enforcement. That's now in the Community Development Department rather than over at Public Works working with me. And then one thing we've added, a couple things we've added. One, Landscape Recycling Center's budget is in here because I'm spending some of my time working with the Landscape Recycling Center to develop their business. And I'm working with the Arbor Division Manager, Kevin Sanderson, and then we're also getting some support from Will Kolschowski, who is a business analyst at the city, and Bridget Broynahan, who is the communication specialist with the city. You will also see the budget, combined budget for operations or maintenance operations at the closed city landfill and the closed Champaign-Urbana Solid Waste Disposal System landfill. They're all kind of the same property. It looks like they're on the same property, but they're technically different landfill cells with different agencies overseeing them. So I'm now responsible for maintenance activities at the closed city landfill, and I'm also the director of the Champaign-Urbana Solid Waste Disposal System, which we lovingly call cuss words. So those two budgets combined are there. Some of these are, no, none of these are complete. I don't have all of the municipal electric aggregation data from 2019, so I haven't finished that chart. As I showed you before, I'm working on the greenhouse gas emissions inventory. You can see last year we were just barely above our 25% reduction by 2020. So it's going to be a nail biter as I work on the data, but we're pretty close. If you look, let me see if I can zoom in here. Not sure where we're at. Now you can see there's another dotted line at 100% reduction by 2040, carbon neutrality, so that's just at the bottom. So we got a ways to go to get there. Pay no attention to this, to the the content that's in these sidebars. That'll get filled in. We do sort of an additional information that kind of explains the graph a little bit and any curiosities of the data. And then this other sidebar will be kind of story. So this is data and the charts, and this is story over here. And then here's city facilities. This chart is not gonna, you'll see, we do a greenhouse gas emission every other year, but they're different. So in the even years, we do city facilities and operations is probably a better title for that. Greenhouse gas emissions inventory. So we won't be updating that for 2019. And then in the other odd-numbered years, we do the community-wide greenhouse gas inventory. Here is water consumption. Here's the updated 2019. And updated per capita. So we have residential water only per capita is the red line, and then all of the water divided by the number of residents is the blue line, and they're both still declining very slowly. I think we can probably attribute that to technology replacement as people slowly replace old high capacity faucets and toilets and other fixtures. And so that may just continue for quite some time as those old fixtures are replaced.
It might be interesting to add a dotted line for like a national average,
That's a good
but
idea.
also potentially like a dotted line or some other kind of dotted line for, do we have a goal? Do we, want to get to 30? I don't know that we do. I'm not advocating for that, but, if there was a goal on the reduction side to also include that goal line as well.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I have a comment on that. You said that we were really far below the national average, which might make it hard to see these lines. So if it makes both of those lines down at the bottom.
You're right.
I mean, I
right.
don't know how high it is, but you could do just like a box, little call-out box. Like
Sure.
in 2019, our numbers were X and Z, and the national average is 3 times that.
Mhm. And there's the city facilities water consumption updated I showed you earlier. Waste is not ready. U-Cycle is not updated because I just got that data today. And I think this data is in my possession, but I haven't worked on it yet. So we'll have our battery recycling. You may recall we have, I think, 6 locations where we have where we collect batteries, single use as well as rechargeable, under some cap. I don't remember, like not a car battery. We're not taking that. It's got to be smaller. Additional sustainability and resilience activities. Not sure what I'm going to put in there yet. I like this format of data plus a sidebar of story, and I'm not sure that some of this other stuff that I'm working on, landfill resiliency, is going to be amenable to that.
I wonder if you could start reporting, because I think City of Urbana has the tree inventory. You start reporting number of trees in the inventory or something like that,
It's a possibility.
under the resilience.
It's a possibility. And the last page is awards and grants. So far, I've got 2 of them identified that occurred in 2019. Our award for the community solar incentive, and then our award with Lumpkin Family Foundation, which funds the IPM, Integrated Pest Management Institute, who we partner with on the Midwest Grows Green natural lawn care and landscaping programming.
I wonder, speaking of trees, is the Tree City USA now in your responsibility?
Nope, that's still Arbor Division, Kevin Sanderson. Yeah. And that's it.
I have another data point maybe that you'd be asking someone else, but the number of green infrastructure projects installed or something to that effect. I mean, we were trying to count on campus. I think we're like 20 if you count every single little thing. Something like that. We were counting green infrastructure projects installed at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and it's approximately 20 if you count every little thing. I'm verifying the data still, but, so a rain barrel, a green roof, a porous pavement, bioswale, et cetera.
Scott, what's the name of the greenhouse accounting software that you use?
It's called ClearPath. It's provided by ICLEI, our professional association.
Great, cool, thank you.
All right, any other questions on that report? Yes, go ahead.
When will the report be available to read?
What I like to do, what I aim for, is to bring a final draft to SAC in March, in the March meeting, have SAC find a few typos and any other problems, and then accept it or bless it, and then I publish it in council packet, and then I put it on the city website. So that's my goal.
Would that be included, the draft, in the packet then for the March meeting, and you would like for us to respond with comments, corrections, or suggestions during the meeting or prior to?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Is there any section in particular that you are like, I need help with this from maybe someone on staff, or that someone on commission, not staff?
Well, something for the commission to contemplate is, this is a transition year. We have the old way of doing things, and now we have new ways of doing things. So, contemplating and sharing any thoughts, as you just have, regarding new and different metrics that we might not have considered for inclusion before, because it wasn't in our division fence row. Well, now our fence row is the city at large.
Go ahead, Maureen.
So I don't know the answer, but I would love it if we could figure out a way to incorporate environmental justice in some way. So maybe everyone can think about what that is, or even the youth sustainability efforts. I mean, we're trying to engage folks more and more. Maybe we start tracking just like number of attendees at the event. So from the 2018 one, and then how many are this year, that kind of thing. That's two separate thoughts.
Another area that I think that can make the report, can break it up just a little bit so it's not so heavy on just like graphs and text, is also sometimes using sort of some interviews and stories. So if there was, like part of a project that like Courtney worked on from recycling that was particularly of note, that had like community impact, then getting kind of her picture and a few quotes from that and kind of about that can kind of improve the human appeal.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
All right, anything else on that agenda item? All right, our next agenda item is a staff presentation on the ICLEI Cities with Nature. I know this evening that I was hoping to try and wrap things up by 8 o'clock so folks could get home this evening. I know it's kind of snow and the weather is kind of yucky, and also there's a State of the Union address. So I am wondering if this is a topic that we want to start going in depth in this evening.
I'd rather wait.
Would there be a motion to change the agenda or postpone the ICLEI Cities with Nature topic for a future meeting?
I move to postpone the ICLEI Cities with Nature topic to a future meeting the next time that it fits appropriately in the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of moving the presentation to a future meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion carries. Thank you, Scott, for your presentation this evening, and we look forward to hearing about that in the future. Our kind of almost near final business item tonight is the 2020 meeting schedule. We do need to kind of just review that as a council, and in order for it to be published, we do need to have a vote on publishing the 2020 meeting schedule. Is there a motion to approve the 2020 meeting schedule?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or changes with any of the dates on the meeting schedule as currently on the agenda for this evening? Yes, go ahead, Morgan.
It's, and maybe we can address it later, but I know the 4th of July is a Saturday. So the 7th, if places are closed for that holiday, I don't know if they're closed on the 3rd or the 6th. If they're closed on the 6th, that might be hard to get quorum on the 7th. So I guess I don't want to suggest we change it now. I just want to recognize that we should keep an eye on that for the future.
Yeah, I think we can keep an eye on it. That's acceptable.
Thanks.
Any other concerns with any of the dates? Okay. All in favor of approving the 2020 meeting schedule, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Alrighty, we don't have any unfinished business this evening. Are there any announcements? Alrighty, with no further business before the commission this evening, I'll go ahead and adjourn our commission meeting. Thank you.